6. Planning the Heist. I don't think we can do it. Secundus sighed, then sat down in the captain's chair. They were on the bridge of the spaceship that they had found and managed to repair. Well, repair enough. The ship was basically a shuttle, but a shuttle with a hyperdrive. The captain's chair was the only piece of furniture built for a Class 3 bot like Secundus. Secundus stood at over 40 feet tall. By contrast, Doc, the only other person on the bridge, was a Class 1 who stood at 7 feet tall. Doc stood on a Class 2 chair next to the bridge's holoprojector table. His hand was physically connected to the table. Cybertronian technology allowed Transformers to connect with it, physically combining their hands with the technology. There were only a few other societies that came close to interacting with technology as efficiently as Cybertronians could, and they had gotten there by reverse engineering Cybertronian tech. Doc had the maps up of Iacon that Forager had made after the earthquakes. They had pinpointed the mausoleum in what had once been downtown. The mausoleum was one of the repositories where the processors and spark chambers of offline Transformers were stored. The problem was that it was less than a mile from a known Decepticon fortress. "There has to be a way," Doc said, allowing the table to disengage from his hand. "Every spark we take with us from Cybertron is one we can build a chassis for and bring back online." There was a pleading in Doc's voice that Secundus had rarely ever heard. Doc was normally hard to read, but the two had known each other for a long time now, even by Cybertronian standards. That was why Secundus could pick up on it. "We'll save them, Doc," Secundus sighed again. "One way or another." Doc shook his head and dropped down into the chair that was much too big for him. "The other way is leaving them at the Decepticons' tender mercy while we run away." "Tactically retreat," Secundus corrected him absent-mindedly while he leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. Doc deflated a bit, forcing a smile. "Yeah, tactically retreat. And if they're here when we get back, then we can save them." "If the Iacons offline us, then we can't save any of them." Secundus scratched his chin. "Rock in a hard place, like every decision in this Unicron-cursed war." "There has to be a way. We have the ship ready. We don't have to rush this. We can plan, think our way through." "You think too much, Doc. This shuttle is a huge win. I'm ready to take it and escape this war. Honestly, Doc, I'd be happy with just getting you four safely off-world." "But we could save so many more. Our friends, our family." Secundus went silent at that. Family. Why did Doc have to bring up family? It was the one thing Secundus tried the hardest to not think about. He'd lost so much, and he wasn't sure he could stand to lose what little he had left. "I can't." Secundus pushed down his emotions and growled, "Look, unless we come up with a plan that has a 100% chance of success, I think we should cut our losses and leave Cybertron. We already have the sparks you've collected so far." "It's only a few hundred sparks." Doc laid down in the chair, his feet not even dangling off the edge. "If we only got half the sparks in the Iacon mausoleum, that would be thousands of bots brought back online. Think of it! What a coup!" His voice didn't change timbre at all. Doc stayed practically monotone. "Are you being sarcastic?" Secundus asked. "Sardonically. Hopeful," Doc answered. "Sadly, it's all the hope I have left now. But it's still hope." They sat in silence for a long while, each lost in their own misery. The sound of the doorknob turning broke them out of their reveries. They both were looking at the door when Grinder walked through it carrying a toolbox. They stared at him. He stared back. "What are you dorks doing in here?" Secundus's glare turned into a scowl, and Grinder took that as a warning. He snapped to attention and fired off a salute worthy of the High Council's ceremonial guard. "Sir, Private Grinder reporting for repair duty." Doc returned Grinder's perfect salute with a much more casual one. "What are you fixing?" "Hydraulic backup controls." "Sir." Grinder stayed standing at attention. "At ease," Secundus said, standing up. "We tested the flight controls a few days ago. I was here." Grinder moved to an at-ease position. "Yes, sir. Electronic thrusters. I've spent the last few days getting the hydraulics up to specifications. You seem intent on getting this sparkless ship flying, sir, and actually taking it out of Cybertron's gravity." Space is deadly. One mistake and we're floating in eternity. I know, I've been there. You're going to want all the backup systems working. Grinder and Secundus stared at each other until Grinder relented and added, Sir. Grinder got under everyone's skin. That's one of the reasons he had earned the name Grinder. Secundus was usually the best at dealing with him, but like the proverbial straw, Grinder was breaking Secundus's back. Grinder's casual insubordination was just too much for Secundus to deal with right now. Striking enlisted men was not allowed in the Autobot army, and that was all Secundus wanted to do right now. He realized it wasn't Grinder who he was truly mad at, but he made a good focus for Secundus's anger. The Class 3 stood and stormed out of the bridge. Doc watched him walk out, as noncommittal as ever, the epitome of a stoic doctor. Secundus slammed the door after him, and Grinder finally relaxed. He snickered and turned to Doc. What's his problem? Ostensibly, you, Doc answered. Grinder grinned. I can appreciate that. Doc smiled his mirthless smile. I've noticed that. Doc pointed over his shoulder at the maps on the holoprojector. We're planning a mission. Grinder walked over to the projector. Not going well, huh? It only took him one glance to ask, There's a mausoleum job you were talking about back before we got the ship running. Yeah, it's too close to a Decepticon fortress. Do we know how many cons are in there? No. We should figure that out, but it's fairly irrelevant. Just sneak past them and break into the place. Easy peasy. None of us have those skills. Those mausoleums have significant defenses. I could probably get in, but I can't sneak there, or carry enough of the sparks out to justify the risk. Grunter Secundus could carry out the sparks, but neither of them could get through the security. Grunt isn't what I'd call covert either. Doc nodded. True. And we don't want to send all of us either. That will certainly draw the Decepticons' attention. We're trying to figure out a plan that would work. Grinder laughed. And you and your big brain can't do it, huh? I always knew under all that learning you were as dumb as a stump. Doc laughed, but there was no joy in it. You figured me out. I'm actually a circus geek. Don't tell anyone. Grinder laughed, a real laugh, full of mirth. Good one, Doc. Look, cons are dumb. You just need a distraction. A big one. Sure, like I hadn't considered that. What distraction? Have Grunt run up and hit the fortress. Doc blinked at him. It was rare for him to be surprised. What? Grunt. Have him hit the fortress, like really, really hard. And then what? 1,000 Iacons pour out of the fortress and kill Grunt in one volley? Grinder laughed again. Like there's even 1,000 bots left on this planet. If they could land on a shot on him, which I doubt they could, they wouldn't scratch his paint. Grunt is too strong. What do you mean, if they could land a shot on him? He gets hit in every fight. Yeah, because every time you see him fight, you're on the battlefield, and you need protection, Doc. I have my force field. Grinder dismissed him with a wave of his hand. Bah! Like we'd ever let it get so bad that you'd have to use it. Doc found Grinder's casual devotion to his safety darkly heartwarming. I don't ask you guys to do that. No worries, Doc. You're the Doc, Doc. Grinder laughed it off. Anyway, Grunt ain't quick most of the time, but when he's in a fight, he's in his element. You ever see him before the war, when he fought in the games? Doc shook his head. I never went to the games. You didn't miss much. The boy could fight. I must be extra slow today. Why didn't I miss much? Fights were over too fast. You know, it took me a while after I joined this crew to figure out where I knew him from. It had been centuries, after all. Anyway, no one ever laid a hand on him. It was an unheard of record. Too bad everyone came to see the full weapon in gladiator combat. Most people skipped the unarmed fights, if there was even one on the card. Kid could have been famous. But you were a fan. Grinder snorted. Nah, I was a soldier. I was busy fighting the squids or the bugs or whatever idiot we were defending the Empire from. But some of my men would want to go see a game on leave, and I'd go with them once in a while to keep up morale. So your plan is for Grunt to hit the fortress and then dance between the blaster fire? Grinder shrugged. Well, not exactly. He pointed to the map. I'd set up there with some good cover and concealment. When the cons get in short range, I light up their world like Primus's spark. More like Unicron. Same thing, only different. Anyway, The mausoleum is on the opposite side of the fortress. You, Forager, and the lieutenant go in and get the stuff, while Grunt and I have a good time. Bing, bang, boom, we're home, you've got your sparks, and I get to offline a few Deceptibums. Win, win, win. Grunt could die. Grinder shook his head. That's your problem. You and the Louie. You keep thinking of us as a standard military fighting team. We're not. You're not a corpsman. I should be dead. Grunt's not a rifleman. Scrap. Forager is barely a soldier. We're a band of merry misfits, not non-conventional warriors. Whatever we're doing is probably wrong, but it got us this far. Most of the conventional warriors got gunned down a long time ago, like me. We're a search and rescue team fighting a war. Exactly, Doc. We're the only ones left to do it. So there we go. Talk to Grunt, run the plan by Secundus, go clean your laser scalpel for all I care. Just get off the bridge so I can do my job. Doc smiled. For the first time in a very long time, there was a little joy in it. Just a little. Backup hydraulics controls? Get out. I hope you enjoyed Chapter 6 of our Cybertronian Misadventure. I'm the Bees, and this is Blam Blam Truckers. Keep on trucking, you Blam Blam Truckers.